We begin the Gemara on Daf Tzad Gimel Amud Aleph, last two lines of the Amud, where it says V'chein shloisha shehitilu Oma Shmuel. So what did it say in the last part of the Mishnah? Mishnah says 3 people that invested money in some kind of investment, in a kiss, investment together. So proportionate to the amount of money that they invested, so whatever happens later, if there's a loss or there's a profit, each one will get proportionate to what he invested. That's the halacha that the Mishnah said. In that day they divided. Mishnah spoke before about a Kesubos, but the same is also by an investment. Everyone gets according to what they invested. Oma Shmuel. So Shmuel said a halacha. Shnayim sheyitilu lekis, 2 people that invest money together. Zem mana v'zem asayim. So one only gave 1 mana and the other one gave 200. So nevertheless, even though he gave double, haschar le'emtza. But whatever profit there is, they share equally. Okay, so now the Gemara will explain in what case Shmuel said this. Now, there's an obvious question from the Mishnah that we just quoted, which Gemara will eventually ask. But first, let's see, in what case did Shmuel say that even though one invested double of his friend, but nevertheless, the profit for both of them is the same? Rabbi explains, Mistabra Milse the Shmuel, it's logical to accept what Shmuel said. What did they do with this investment? They went and they bought an ox that's going to be plowing in the field, and that ox is actually plowing. That's what it's being used for, and they're making profit from this, using this ox, maybe hiring it out to plow in the field. So in such a case, as Rashi explains, you can't have the ox unless you have the full ox. If you're going to cut off one leg, so you have nothing. No. So therefore, even though one only invested 100 and the other one invested 200, he can't say to his friend, well, I invested double from you, because he's going to say, without my 100, you couldn't afford to buy this ox. So therefore, both of us are considered to be equal in this ox here doing its work. But if they invested and they bought an ox intending to use it for plowing, and then this ox became a nice fat ox, and it's more profitable to sell it, to shecht it, and to sell the meat. So now, when you're shechting and selling the meat, everybody's going to take it according to the amount of money that he invested to buy this ox. Because over here, you can't say that without my part, you don't have your part. No, that's not true. You have the different sections of the animal, and each one is sold separately, and therefore each one is going to get according to the amount of money that he invested in this to buy this ox. Rashi says that even though the Gemara here says that it's just a chiddush, even though originally they bought it for plowing, and at that point they should be treated equal, but then even if they changed later, still each one is going to take proportionally. For sure, if they bought this ox just for shechting in order to sell the meat, for sure in such a case you're going to divide it proportionally. But Rav Amnuna says, Afilu shoyer lecharisha v'oymid letviche, even this ox that was originally bought for plowing, and now it's being used letviche to shech, and each one can claim that I have my section and my percent that I invested in, but even then, aschar le'emtza. The schar, the profit, will still be equal between them. So Meisvei, the Gemara first asks from a Braisa. Braisa says, Shnayim sheitilu lekis. 2 people invested money together. Zem mana v'zem asayim. One 100 and the other one 200. Haschar le'emtza. So the Braisa says that the schar, the profit for both of them will be equal. My love, so don't you think, what is this Braisa saying? When is the profit equal for both of them? B'shar lacharisha, when it's an ox that was bought for plowing, and v'ayimid letvicha. But now they decided that they're going to use it, they're going to shecht it and sell the meat. So this refutes what Rabbi says. Rabbi says in such a case, when they're shechting it and they're splitting and they're selling the meat, then you divide proportionally, not equal. Says the Gemara, how do you know that's what the Braisa is speaking about? Loi, that's not the case. B'shar l'charisha, v'ayimid l'charisha. The Braisa is speaking about when do we divide it equally amongst them, is when it was bought for plowing, it's used for plowing. So in such a case, both of them have the equal, they can both claim that without me, you don't have this ox here, and therefore it's divided equally. Aval, says the Gemara, wait a minute. If that's the pshat over here, so now so that would mean if it was originally bought for plowing, but now it's being used to shecht and to sell the meat. So what's going to be the halacha then? Like Rabbi said, then each one is going to get their percent of what they invested. If so, let's see what it says in the continuation of this brayse. The Tani Seife, in the Seife it says as follows regarding these partners that are investing. One person went and bought with his money a certain amount, and the other one bought with his money another amount. So let's say we're talking again about buying oxes for plowing the field. So one person invested a lot of money, so he bought strong oxes to be able to plow. Another one bought oxes which are much smaller, much weaker. And then they decided to be partnered together, and all these oxes are now being used together. So in such a case, because each one bought separate oxes, because it's very clear of whose money is invested where, so you can't say that without me you don't have any use of this ox. Each one bought separately, and then later they're using the oxes together. So in such a case, everyone's going to take according to what they invested. That's what it says in the Seifa of the Braisa. But why does it have to bring me this case that everybody will agree that over here each one takes according to what he invested? Why doesn't the Braisa make a distinction in the very case that it spoke about in the Reisha, when there's the money that was invested in one ox, and we can make a distinction there and say as follows: when do I say that they divide equally? The ox was bought for plowing and it's being used for plowing, so then because it's all being used together in the plowing, so over there they divide equally. The ox was bought for plowing, but now it's being used to shecht and to sell the meat. So everyone takes according to the percent of what he invested. We can make this distinction regarding one ox. Why does the Braisa and the Seif have to go to a case where each one bought separately? Answers the Gemara, Hachinami Ka'amar. This is actually how the Braisa has to be understood. And we read it as follows: when do I say that I split the investment equally? When they bought an ox for plowing and it's actually being used for plowing, so then each one gets equally. It was bought for plowing and they're actually using it to shecht and sell the meat, so then what the Braisa meant to say is, in such a case each one gets their percent, and nasa kemi. This is equivalent to a case where shalakach zeh b'shaloi v'zeh b'shaloi, where each one bought with their money a different ox. One bought a strong, a big fat ox, and one bought a weak and a small ox, and then v'nisarvo, and then they partner together. So in such a case, zeh noit lefi ma'asav and v'zeh noit lefi ma'asav, that each one takes according to what he invested. That's what the Braisa meant to say. So this is exactly what Rabbi said, the distinction that Rabbi said before. Now the Gemara asks from our Mishnah. Tanan, what did it say in our Mishnah? Three people that invested together money. And then the Mishnah says, Pichasu oy haisiru, if they had a loss or they had a profit, so and they would divide like this, and this is like it said earlier in the Mishnah regarding a Kesubos, that each one gets proportionate to their investment. So this is a question on Shmuel, because my love, don't you think that this Mishnah is saying Pichasu means Pichasu Mamish, that the money was invested? We can say like the case we had before, they invested in buying an ox, and there was a certain loss that there was in this ox, or haisiru mamish, there was a certain gain that there was, and we give everybody proportionate according to their investment that they had. So we see here, not like Shmuel said, so my love, says the Gemara. Sorry, I read that already. So this is not like what Shmuel said, that in such a case you would divide equally. Rav Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Baravua, that's not what our Mishnah is speaking about. Loi haisiru loi. That's not what the Mishnah means. Rather, haisiru means zuze chadati. Haisiru means that the money that they invested, this money itself was being used and it wasn't really accepted in the market, in the circulation. The money that they invested was not able to be used, and now it became zuzi chadati. It became accepted in the market to be able to be used in the exchange of the money. So we're talking about the very money itself that they invested, not that they invested it and there's a profit. The word haisiru does not mean a profit. If it would mean profit, over there Shmuel would be right that we would still divide it equally amongst them. But we're talking about this money itself that now became good money in the circulation to be able to be used. And pichasu means Astire de tsunisa, when you have money that was invested and this money itself became unacceptable in the circulation. What do you do with such money when it's not acceptable in the circulation? So it's just a coin, it's just a piece of metal. So Rashi says, Astire de tsunisa means it's now used for healing. If a person has a certain wound on his body and you put this piece of coin, which is, I guess, a rubbed out piece of coin, it could be used to place there for healing on a certain wound that a person has. So when you're talking about the actual coins itself that they both invested, so if these coins itself that were invested either went up, that they're able to be used, or went down, in other words, that they can't be used in the circulation, then I say each one will get, according to the percent, the loss or the gain of what they invested. Because we're talking about the actual money itself, the coins itself that they invested. But if you talk about a profit or a loss in an investment regarding an ox that was used for plowing in the field, in such a case, Shmuel would be right that the investment is distributed between them equally. A person is married to 4 wives. Umeis, and he passed away. So who collects the ksuba first, who comes second? So we go in order. Harishayna kedemes l'shniya. The one that he married first comes, so he has properties that he left after he passed away. So not necessarily is there enough for everybody to collect. So the one that was married first takes first before the second. Shniya l'shlishis. The second one comes before the third. Ushlishis l'revius. And the third comes before the fourth. And now another halacha. V'rishayna nishbas l'shniya. The first wife is going to have to swear to the second one before she takes what she wants. She's going to have to swear to the second one that I did not get paid my ksuba yet. If the second wife is going to argue and say, hey, why are you taking this piece of land? You already got paid from another place. She's taking first. She's going to have to swear to the second one that she didn't get anything yet. And the second one is going to have to swear to the third as well. And shlishis l'revius, and the third wife has to swear to the fourth, because each one, when they're taking their collection of the ksuba, they could be causing a loss to the next one that won't be enough for them. So before you take, you have to swear that you're taking rightfully. Now when it comes to the last one, since there's nobody after her, so simply she's not causing a loss to anybody. Everybody already got what they deserve. So now the fourth one, nifras shaloi b'pshua. She takes her portion of the ksuba and she doesn't have to swear to anybody. Benanas argues and says, no, is it because she's the very last niskeres, so she should gain, that she shouldn't have to swear when she collects her ksuba? She as well will have to swear before she collects her ksuba. The Gemara will explain this. I mean, seemingly for who, for what? Why should she be swearing? She's not causing even potentially any loss to anybody. She's the last one. Everyone else already got everything. The Gemara will explain. Another din, sagt the Mishnah, what's if the dates on the ksuba is all the same, or as some Farshim say, yotzis means they actually all got married on the same day. So they all came out from their father's house and they got married to this man. He got married to all 4 wives on the same day. So now who comes first, who comes second? So kala kidemes l'chaverta, the one that was before her friend in the ksuba, in the hour of the day, afilu shah achas, even if it's just 1 hour before, zachsa. So she gets her ksuba first. And this is what they did in Yerushalayim when they wrote a shtar. So shois, they would write not only the day of the shtar, but they would also write an hour. How about if he had a chasana and he got married to all 4 wives together at the same hour, and there's only 1 money, so there's not enough for everybody to divide the ksuba, to each one get a portion or the full amount of their ksuba. So chelka is b'shaveh. So then we divide equally amongst all of them. They're all on the same time. So up to Gemara. B'mai kamifligi. What's the argument between the Tanakama and Benanas regarding this 4th wife? That the Tanakama says the 4th wife has no reason to swear to the others. The others already got the full ksuba. Benanas says no. Even the 4th one has to swear. So the question really is, according to Benanas, why should the 4th one have to swear? What do the other ones stand to lose if she's taking for her ksuba? So the Gemara Shmuel. So Shmuel says, Kagoin shenimtzis achas menathen sada shene shaloi. There is actually a possibility that the other 3 wives that already got their ksuba will stand to lose by the 4th one that's taking this property for her ksuba. How is that? What happens if any of the previous wives that collected their ksuba, it turns out that the property that they collected doesn't belong to the husband that passed away. He stole it. So now they're stuck. So they're going to have to now go and take from that last property that the fourth wife is now collecting. So really, by the fourth one collecting this property for her ksuba, even though the other one's already received, potentially it could be that they're going to be losing out from the fourth one taking. If it turns out that any of the properties that they got was a stolen property. Now, but what's the question? The question is, what happens in such a situation? Could any of the previous wives come to the last one and say, sorry, we collected our ksuba, but it turns out that it wasn't a good collection, so now you're number 4, so we're taking this property from you. Could they say that? Could they take it from her or not? So that's the machlokes here. So as the Gemara, you have the same situation regarding a situation of a loan. What happens if somebody owed 3 people money? First, second, and third. So you would think after the first and second already collected their loan, and now the third one comes and collects, so the third one is not taking away anything from the first 2. But you could have the same kind of situation. The first 2 could be concerned, what happens if the property that we collected turned out not to be the person that owed us the money, didn't ever belong to him? Now they'll have to go back to the third person. Could they go back to the third person or not? So the Gemara says, what happens if a later Balchayiv, the guy number 3, he came, Shekadam Vegova, and he collected before the other ones? This is a question. What happens if a Balchayiv that's really supposed to be number 3 in the line, he went ahead, he grabbed something before, in advance, before the other 2? What's the halacha then? That's what the argument over here is. Tanakama Savar, so the Tanakama of our Mishnah says, Mashagava loigava. If he collects ahead of the other 2, what he took is not his. He's going to have to give it up because he's number 3. So over here in this case as well, what happens if it turns out that one of these 3 wives before, what they collected was not theirs, and now they have to go back to number 4 and say, sorry, what we collected was not ours, so we're taking from you. They'll be able to take from number 4. Because number 4, it turns out now that number 4 collected her property before the other ones, because what they collected was not theirs. So you'll be able to go and collect from number 4. So therefore the Tanakama is basically saying that when number 4 comes to collect her property for the ksuba, she's not causing any loss to the other 3. The other 3 already collected the ksuba. And even if it turns out that the field that they collected is not theirs, no problem. You'll come back to number 4 and just take it away from her because she collected ahead of them. That's what it turns out it happened over here. So why should the fourth one, when she takes this property, make any shavua to them? She's not causing any loss to the other 3. But Banana's opinion is Mashagava Gava, that if one that was later, number 4 in line, came and took ahead of the other 3, once she collected this property, even though it's ahead of the other ones, what she took now remains in her possession. So therefore, when number 4 is taking this property, she could potentially be causing a loss to the other 3, even though the other 3 already collected, but nevertheless, it could turn out that what they collected is not theirs, so she's potentially causing a loss to the other 3. So therefore, just like the other 3, when they collect, since they could be causing a loss to the other ones, they have to make a shvuah, so too number 4, when she's collecting, since she's taking away something from the other 3, could be, maybe. So the halacha is that she has to make a shvuah as well. Anytime you take a property and there's other people that have rights over this property to collect from, you have to make a shvuah that you're collecting rightfully. So over here as well, she's taking a property that could be really belongs to somebody else. So she has to make a shvuah before she takes it.
So she'll make the shvuah if one of them come along, she has to give it to them.
She's going to have to give it to them. Well, no. Again, she will not have to give it to them. Masha gova gova. She will not have to give it to them, right? The shvuah is not going to help for that. And that doesn't make any difference. But the point is, as long as you're collecting something which could be belongs to someone else, you're not the only person that has a shibud on this property. Could be be'emes is a shibud of someone else. You have to make a shvuah.
So what's the shvuah?
Again, anytime you collect something that you're not the only balchayiv that's owed this, could be it's owed to someone else, you have to make a shvuah to that other balchayiv that might have a right over this property. That you're collecting rightfully. That's the shvuah.
But the pillar have to give the other 3?
No. If it turns out that the property was that the other ones collected was not theirs, right, she's going to keep this. The shvuah is not going to help. She's going to keep this. Correct. Another Pshat Gemara says that Rav Nachman Omer Rabba Baravua. Rav Nachman says in the name of Rabba Baravua, the Kula Alma, everybody would agree, Mashagova loy gova, that what the last one collected, if it turns out that the previous ones, the property that they collected is not theirs, So what the last one, number 4, collected will not be hers. They'll be able to confiscate from her. So that's not a problem. They can go. So really, the 4th one is not threatening, is not taking anything away from them. Right now, they have what they have, and if it turns out that what they took is not theirs, they'll just go back to her and get from her. So why does Bananas then say, what is the potentially what are they taking away from the other ones? So over here, what they're arguing about is: are we concerned that this last wife that's collecting this 4th property, she might destroy this property, she might use it and destroy it? That's what we're concerned about, right? So in other words, true that we can say that the last wife is not causing any loss to the other 3 because they already got their collection. And even if it turns out they did not, they'll come back to this property. But the problem is, they may come back to this property, and now this property that the last one collected will be totally destroyed. Why will it be totally destroyed? So Rashi explains, because the last one is thinking to herself, look, the other 3 wives, when I'm collecting from this field, they're not even paying attention to me. They're allowing me to collect to this field and not even bringing me to the Torah to make sure that I'm owed this. Why? Because they're thinking to themselves, one day we're going to get it anyways. If any of the properties that we collected does not belong to us, we anyways have the right to it. Either way, we always have, because she's number 4 anyway, so we have the right to it. So what's the big deal? Why should we make her make a shvuah? So she's sort of not so sure in her mind that this property that she's collecting will remain with her. So therefore she's going to abuse the property. So that's the problem. According to Bananas, when she collects this field, we can't look at it and say, oh, she's collecting something and the other ones are already safe and secure. They have nothing to worry about. They do have what to worry about. When she's taking this property, she's taking a property that one day may belong really to the other ones, and she's destroying this property. So that's what the machlokes is over here. So Mar Sovar Chashina Shem Etachsiv, Bananas holds that we're concerned that the last one might destroy this property. Omar Sovar Lo Chashina Shem Etachsiv, and the Tanakama says we're not concerned that she's going to destroy the property. So when the 4th one is taking this property, according to Tanakama, she's not causing any potential loss. If the other one's already collected, if it turns out that what they collected is not theirs, they'll come back to this property and they'll take it away from her. And we're not concerned that she has already destroyed the property. So it's sort of mashma from Rashi over here regarding this case, that there is a certain benefit to the actual shvuah here. If we forced her to make a shvuah, this itself will show her that the other people are paying attention to what you're doing. And therefore, when you're collecting this is a serious collection. And this is actually yours. And after you make the shvuah, they're not taking it away from you. So she's going to treat the property properly. She's going to say, oh, this is mine. Look, I made a shvuah. Now it belongs to me. So therefore, there's a certain benefit of her making the shvuah that now she'll treat this property like a mensch.
She's not going to destroy it.
Correct. A third pshat the Gemara says, Abaye says, the 4th wife, again, the discussion over here is what's the point of the 4th wife making a shvuah? So according to this pshat, the 4th wife is actually not making a shvuah to the other 3 wives. Till here the Gemara was explaining that just like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd are making a shvuah each to the other wives, that they're collecting what's theirs, but over here according to this pshat, the 4th wife has no shvuah to make to the other 3 wives. Rather, what she's making a shvuah for is she's collecting from the Yisayimim. The rule is, anytime you collect from Yisayimim, you must make a shvuah first. But now here, the argument between the Tanakama and Bananas is, our Mishnah is speaking about Yisayimim that are Gedalim. They're already older. Do you have to make a shvuah when you collect from Yisayimim Gedalim? So the Abaye Kshisha Ikebenayu. Abaye, the older Abaye, so he said as follows, Atani Abaye Kshisha Yisayimim Shamru, when it says that when you collect from Yisayimim, you have to make a shvuah, Gedalim. That's even if the Yisayimim are Gedalim. Vein tzarach leim katanim. Needless to say, if you collect them from Yisayimim that are Katanim, you're going to have to make a shvuah. So that's the argument here. Tanakame lesle dabai kshisha. Our Mishnah is speaking about Yisayimim that are Gedalim. And so the Tanakame does not hold of what Abai Kshisha said. And therefore, the 4th one collecting from these Yisayimim that are Gedalim, there's no reason to make a shvuah. Not to the other wives, they got what they have already. And not to the Yisayimim either. Bananas is the Abai Kshisha. Bananas holds like what Abai Kshisha said, that the shvuah that the 4th wife makes is to the Yisayimim, even if they're Gedalim. Amar Rav Huna said, another halacha here, which we're going to learn from our Mishnah. Hanit Treyachi. If you have 2 brothers that inherited together, so they're at this point they are partners, or Trei Shutfi, or if you have 2 partners. The Asalu Dine Bahadichad. So the Islahu Dine Bahadichad. So they have a dintayre with some individual, and va'azal chad minayu ba'adei ledina. One of the partners went to the dintayre to argue with him, to present all the claims that he has in this Taira. But the other partner did not join. The second partner can't come and argue and say, lay to him, I never presented my claims in Bezin. You entered in Taira with my partner. But what's with me? I never came to the Bezin and never brought my arguments. So they can't, but they're partners though, right? So he can't say, only my partner was there, but I wasn't there. So therefore, I'm not allowing you to take, even if he wanted in Taira, but I have to go to the Taira with you. So we don't allow him to say that. Ella, rather what we say is, Shlichusei Avad, his partner was his shliach, and he claimed whatever could be said in your place. So the Gemara brings what actually happened. Ikla Rav Nachman l'sura. Rav Nachman was in surah. Shailui, he asked this question, Kehai Gavna, in such a case, what's the halacha? If one person has a dintayra with partners, does he have to make sure that both partners come to the dintayra? And otherwise one partner can say, I wasn't there, so you have to give me a chance to argue. So Amalahu, and Rav Nachman said to them, again, they asked Rav Nachman what the halacha is. So Rav Nachman said to them, Masnisini. We can learn this from what it said in our Mishnah. There were the 4 wives over here that are collecting their ksubah. What did our Mishnah say? Harishayna nishbas l'shniya. The first wife is swearing to the second wife that she's rightfully collecting her ksubah. And then shniya l'shlishis. The second wife swears to the third wife. And shlishis l'revius. And the third swears to the fourth. But v'ilu rishayna l'shlishis like katani. It doesn't say that the first one is swearing to the third wife as well. Even though when the first one collects, she's taking and could be causing a loss to the second, third, or fourth. Nevertheless, it says not all 3 wives that she could be causing a loss to have to be present in the Taira. She swears just to one of them, to the second one. So we see over here, my timer. What do you think the reason is? Lav, don't you think it is? Mishum de shlichuse avda, because the second wife is a shliach of the other 2 wives that are not present, and therefore, as long as she's swearing to her, to the second wife, that counts as it's as good as the other ones were there as well, and they can't argue that if we would have been there, we would have said something else. Says the Gemara, there's no rai from our Mishnah. Midami, how could you compare? Hasam here in our Mishnah, Shvuah. We're talking about Shvuah le'echad or Shvuah le'meya. It's not just talking about an arguments or claims in a dintayra. We're talking about a Shvuah that she swore that I never got paid my ksoba and therefore I'm rightfully collecting. When you make a shvuah, there it's obvious that you don't need all the parties of the dintayra to be present. Once you make a shvuah, making a shvuah in the presence of one or making a shvuah in the presence of 100 partners, it's the same thing. How does it add if you have more people present? You're just making a shvuah. So shvuah, that itself proves that you have the right to collect. But hacha,
the wives are all partners?
They are not all partners, but they all have rights to collect from the properties of the husband. So they're all sort of partners in the sense they're all having a loss by the first one collecting. Hacha, over here, when we're talking about the case of the partners, Omar, so one of the partners can argue and say, Ilu ano avai, if I would have been there in the dintayre, tanina tvei. So then we're not talking about a shvuah, we're talking about arguments, claims. I would have presented a better claim. So therefore, in such a case, he does have a right to say this. But the Gemara adds, this is only true if this second partner was not in the city when this dintayra took place. So therefore he could say, it's not right. How could you make a dintayra when I wasn't around? You should have waited for me. If he was here in the city, so then he should have came. No one stopped him from coming. So in such a case, he can't have any tainus after the dintayra, so it's too late. Itmer, we learned the following machlokes. This is connected to the last part of the Mishnah where it spoke about shtaris that have the same date. All the wives, he married all the wives on the same date. So bei shtaris hayetzim b'yei mechad. If you have 2 shtaris, 2 documents of a sale, of a certain property that was sold, and the date and the properties are both the same day. Rav Amar, so Rav says, so we have no idea who bought first, who bought second, so what do? Chalkin. So you divide the property between both of these people. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, Shuda the Daini. Shuda the Daini means the judges throw. The word Shuda means to throw. What does it mean throw? So Rashi says the Dayanim have to use their estimation to see who's right and who's wrong. That's Rashi's pshat. Taisus many places says Shuda the Daini means the Bezin just chooses. They chooses who to give it to since we don't know who's right and who's wrong. I mean, they both have an equal right to this. So the Gemara says, Leime, how do we explain this machlokes? Whether we split or whether Bezin gives to one of them. So shall we say that Rav the Omak Rav Meir. Rav follows Rav Meir's opinion. What is Rav Meir's opinion? When it comes to a get, and the same regarding a shtar, So what is the validity? What makes a shtar or a get a valid shtar? So Rav Meir says, Eidei chasim mekarti. It's the signatures. The signatures on the shtar is what makes this shtar a valid shtar. So therefore, according to Rav Meir, again, in the words of the Gemara, the Amma Eidei chasim mekarti. It's the signatures of the Eidim. Karti is the term that's used by a get that causes this get to be a good bill of divorce, a krisis. And the same thing regarding a shtar. That it's the signature on the shtar that makes the shtar a valid shtar. So therefore, what is the Svar of the Gemara saying according to Rav? Since according to Rav Meir, the validity of the shtar is at the time of the signature, even before the shtar is given to the person, to the buyer. So since they were both signed on the same day, and the signatures is what's making it valid, and has the same date on it, so therefore it's an understanding that one is not going to be stronger than the other, because the validity of both of them is on the same date. So therefore, in such a case, Rav says he actually is giving half to one and half to the other. That's what he's doing, right? Because he's giving them both a shtar with the same date, and the validity of the shtar is based on the same date. So therefore, in such a case, yachloiku. So that's actually what we could almost understand. This is what this person intended to do. Okay, no, but Shmuel da'amar Rabbi Elazar. However, Shmuel that says that we don't split it between both of them, they're not equal. Shmuel is following Rabbi Elazar. What da'amar Rabbi Elazar says, Eidem Mesira Karti. A shtar is not valid even after you sign it. There's no validity to the shtar, just through the signatures in the shtar. When does a shtar become valid? When it's given from the seller to the buyer, the Mesira, or from the husband to the wife by a get. At the time of the Mesira, that's what makes the shtar valid. So therefore, even if the date on the actual shtar is the same, but the time when the shtar was given over to the buyer could have been on a different date. Elamai, the problem is we don't know when the Mesira of shtar A and shtar B were. So therefore, in such a case, really only one of them has the right to this field, but so the Bezdin is going to have to choose which one. So therefore, Shmuel says, Shudi the Daini. Says the Gemara, not necessarily is that the explanation of the Machlokes and Rav Shmuel. Does not have to be connected to the Machlokes Tanoim of Rav Meir and Rabbi Elazar. The Kula Almek Rabbi Elazar. Everybody would agree to what Rabbi Elazar said, that the validity of the shtar is not from the date when it's written and signed, but the validity of the shtar is when it's actually handed over to the seller, to the buyer. But here, the argument whether we split or Bezdin chooses who to give it to, is the argument is Rav Sava Chaluka Adife and Shmuel Sava Shuda Dadain Adife. In a situation where we have a suffix, we basically have a situation of a property that there's a doubt. We don't know who it belongs to. What's the better solution? How do we resolve such a kind of a suffix? Rav says the best way to resolve the suffix is give each one a percent, a half. And Shmuel says, no, the best way to resolve it is by Bezdin choosing who to give it to, because then there's more of a chance that it'll go to the rightful owner and it'll get the full amount that's his. Can you say that Rav agrees to Rabbi Elazar's opinion? But Rav, we know that Rav said, or rather, Rav Yehuda, Rav that is. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Halache Rabbi Elazar begit, that we paskin like Rabbi Elazar, that it's the giving over of the get that makes the validity of the get. So by gittin we paskin like Rabbi Elazar. And then ki amrisa kamei de Shmuel. When Rabbi Yehuda said the psak halacha of Rav in front of Shmuel, so Omar Shmuel said af b'shtaris, we paskin like Rabbi Elazar regarding any document, not only regarding gittin, regarding any document by money as well. So what do we understand from this? Meklal, the Rav Sava b'shtaris loy. So we understand that Rav holds when it comes to any document, we don't paskin like Rabbi Elazar. We paskin like Rav Meir, that the signatures of the Eidim on the shtar is what makes the validity of the shtar, and therefore the date in the shtar is equal for both of them. So there's no reason to give one more than the other. And we can't say that Rav holds like Rabbi Elazar. Says the Gemara, you're right, Ela Machvarta, so therefore the best pshat is, like we said before, Rav Rav Meir, Shmuel Rav Elazar. Rav follows Rav Meir, and since the signatures is on the date of the actual shtar, and therefore they both have an equal right to this field, so they both get half. And Shmuel says, no, we go according to when it was given, and it was given to one before the other, and therefore Bezdin will choose who to give it to. Meisvei, but the Gemara asks from a Braise on Shmuel's opinion. The Braise says, two documents, and they both have the same date on it. Chelkin, so the Braise says that we split the properties between these two people. To Yufta the Shmuel, doesn't this refute what Shmuel said, that the Bezdin, the Dayanim, choose who to give it to? Amalach Shmuel, so Shmuel could simply answer you, Hamani Rab Meiri. That Braise that says that you split follows Rab Meir. Rab Meir says you have to look at the actual date in the shtar itself, the signatures in the shtar. According to Rav Meir, you split it. But Shmuel, that is, goes according to Rabbi Elazar, that says that the validity of the shtar is according to when you handed over the shtar to the buyer, and therefore it was handed over one to one before the other. So therefore, Bezdin has to choose who to give it to. But that can't be the opinion of the Braisa. If that Braisa would be Rab Meir, let's see what it says afterwards in this Braisa. If he wrote a shtar to one of them, and he did not give it to him yet, and then he wrote another shtar for someone else, and he did give it to the other person first. The one that the shtar was given to him first, he's the one that's kaina, even though the shtar was signed for another individual first. Rab Meir, now if this Braisa says Rab Meir, amai kana, why is the one that the shtar was given to first kaina? Ha'ama eidech simekarti. Rab Meir says that we follow the date of the shtar, because when the signatures are signed on the shtar, that is what indicates what the person's intention was, that the sale should be according to this date first to him. So why does it matter that he gave it to the other person first? So that Braisa must be Rabbi Elazar. And even according to Rabbi Elazar, I see the Braisa says not like Shmuel, that says that the Bezdin chooses who to give it to, but rather we divide it. Says the Gemara, you're right, you're going to have to say Tanoi. Shmuel will have to tell you that even according to Rabbi Elazar, it's a machlokes Tanoim. What's the better solution to this suffix here? Whether we should divide it, like the Braisa says, or should the Daini, the Bezdin, to choose who to give it to. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, and there, that Braisa, the Gemara doesn't bring the whole case, but this is a Gemara in Gittin, and the case there is speaking about also a suffix about a field, but a different kind of scenario. What's the suffix there? A person sent a messenger to go and deliver a document of a gift, or something that he's giving a gift to somebody. Right? He's giving him money. Let's say, here, deliver money to this person. Now, when he comes to that person that the gift is supposed to be given to, it turns out that person passed away already. So he comes back. The messenger comes back to the person that sent him to give him back the money. Now it turns out that he passed away. So now, who did he give this money to? So now you have the Yershim of the person that sent him. You have the Yershim of the person that he was sent to. So both of them are claiming, well, it belongs to us. The Yershim of the person that sent the money says, well, that person died, so it belongs to us. Well. And the person that he sent the money to claim, well, the one that sent the money passed away, and he intended it to be our father, so therefore belongs to us. So this is suffix, what we do in such a situation. So over there, a similar kind of concept, that we have a suffix regarding money, who it belongs to. And there it says, Chachamim say that we split this money. And the Kanomru here, which refers to Bavel, and Bavel they paskin masha yirtza hashlish yasa. This shlish, which is this shliach, this broker, this person that was bringing this money, he'll do whatever he wants. Similar to what we say, Shuda the Daini, that the Dayanim choose to give it to who they want. Over here, this person, he has to do his shlichus, so he gives it to whoever he sees fit. So here we see clearly this concept that there's a machlokes, when we have a suffix about money, what's a better solution? Is a better solution to divide, or is a better solution to choose to give it to one and not the other? Now the Gemara brings an actual story regarding this halacha, what happened here. Imei de Rami Bachame, the mother of Rami Bachame, kasvinu lenichsa l'Rami Bachame, b'tzafra. In the morning, she wrote a document that she's giving all of her money to her son, Rami Bachame. L'orte, later in the afternoon, kasvinu l'marukva Bachame. And then she wrote all of her money to another son, to Marukva Bachame. She loved both of her sons. In the morning, she writes all of her properties to one. And in the afternoon, she writes another document, all of her properties to another son. So the same exact property. So again, here this is the exact situation we're talking about. Two shtaris on the same day, signatures on the shtar with the same date. So also Rami Bachame l'kamed Rav Sheshes. So Rami Bachame comes to Rav Sheshes regarding what do we do here? Who gets it? Oikme b'nichse. So Rav Sheshes put him into the properties and says, it belongs to you. Also Mar Ukve l'kamed Rav Nachman. So then Mar Ukve, the other brother, he went to Rav Nachman and said what happened. So Oikme b'nichse. Rav Nachman went and said that no, it belongs all to you. So now also Rav Sheshes, the Kamed Rav Nachman. So Rav Sheshes came to Rav Nachman to ask him what's going on over here. Amalei, my time of it, Ma'achi, why did you do this? Why did you give it all to Marukva? Amalei, so Rav Nachman says back to Rav Sheshes, my time of it, Marhachi, and why did you give it all to Rami Bachame? Amalei, so Rav Sheshes said the Kadim, because the mother wrote it to him in the morning. She wrote it to her brother. They weren't arguing about who was written to first and who was written to second. So we know that the mother wrote it to him in the morning. Amalei, so Rav Nachman says, that doesn't help. Otu b'Yerushalayim yasvinon. Are we living in Yerushalayim, the chasvinon shois, that you write into the document hours of not only the day, but also the hour of when it was written and when it was given? We're not living in Yerushalayim. So therefore, the only thing that matters is the date of the day. And if you look at the date of the day, it's the same day. So Ella Mar my time of Adachi. So therefore, Rav Sheshes says to Rav Nachman, so why did you give the whole properties all to Mar Ukve, which got it in the afternoon, if they're both equal? Amalei. So Rav Nachman says, Shude the Daini. What I was doing is, like Shmuel said, I'm a judge and I can choose who to give. I see fit and who's, according to Rashi, I estimate who's right to get it. So therefore I gave it to Mar Ukve. Amalei. So Rav Sheshes says, if so, you should have the daini. I can say the same as you. I also chose as a dayan to give it to who I want, and therefore I give it to Rami Bachame. Amalei. So Rav Nachman says to Rav Sheshes, no. You can't argue this. You can't say that you gave it because of Shuddha the daini. Chada number one, Dana daine Omar lav daine. I am a judge here, and I was appointed to be the judge here, and you are not a judge. So Shuddha the daini is in a case where there's an actual judge. You can't just go and say that I'm choosing who to give it to. Va'oid. Another point he says to him is, in the beginning, when you decided to give it all to Rami Bachama, why did you do so? Because you thought that since he got it from his mother in the morning, he has more of a right than his brother that got it in the afternoon. That's what you were thinking. You weren't giving it because of Shuddha the Daini. So you made a mistake in your psakim. But I am giving it as a dayan, and with this koyach of Shuddha the Daini, and therefore, when I give it to him, it's accepted. That's the final halacha. Okay, one more case. Let's see it. Just finish the mission here. And Hanatrei Shtari, there was two shtaris, the Asla Kamed Rav Yosef, that came in front of Rav Yosef. So again, two shtaris regarding a property, buying a property. Chad Avakasa B'chamshe B'nissen. One shtar says that the sale was on Hey Nissen. Chad Avakasa Bey, another shtar said in it, B'nissen, that this person brought the property in Nissen, but it doesn't say what day in Nissen. It could be any day from Aleph Nissen to Chavtes Nissen. Stomach, without any day in it. So Rav Yosef Paskin, the one that the star has a date in it, that it's in Hey Nissen, he's the one that gets the properties. Amalei Yidach, so now the other brother or the other person that has the star, that has no specific date in the month of Nissen, came and argued, no, Afsid, and I should lose, I should get nothing. Amalei, so Rav Yosef said, yes, at Yodchal Tachtaina, you have the lower hand there. Why? Because Eime Bar Chavtes Ben Nissen not. It could be that you are from Chavtes Nissen, and therefore you have nothing. He got the property before you. Amalei, so he says to Rav Yosef, but the nichtav limar tirfe. Let the master write for me a tirfe, which means that write for me a shtar that I can go now and confiscate any property from this person that he sold from Chodesh Ir and on. A seller that sold both of these properties to both of these individuals, he sold these properties taking responsibility, that if you'll have any problem with the sale, I take responsibility and I'll reimburse you. Right, so now what happens? This person that has the shtar with the Nissen on it, without any specific day, is not getting anything. He wants to be reimbursed. He goes back to the seller has nothing to reimburse him. Where does he have properties? Oh, he has properties that he sold off to someone else. So he tells Rav Yosef, write me a document that I should be able to go and confiscate any properties that were sold from Rosh Chodesh Ir onward. Because whoever bought any property from Rosh Chodesh Ir onward, for sure bought after me. The last date possible that my shtar was on Chavtes Nissen. So therefore I have the right now to get reimbursed and confiscate any property from another buyer from Chodesh Ir. Amalei, so Rav Yosef says, how could I write to you such a document? Yachli l'meimalach, those buyers from after Chodesh Ir will argue back to you and say, how do you know that we took your property, that you can get reimbursed from us? At barchad b'nisanat. Maybe your shtar that has no date is not from Chavtes Nissen. Maybe your shtar is actually from Aleph Nissen. So if your shtar is from Aleph Nissen, so really who has your property? The person that has a shtar of Hey Nissen, he is sitting in your property. So why are you coming to collect from us? So he's stuck. He can't go to the guy from Hey Nissen because he tells him maybe you're from Chavtes Nissen. He can't go to the people that bought from after Chodesh Ir because they tell him maybe the person that has the shtar of Hey Nissen has your property. So what's the solution? How do we help this person? Nichtevu harsha la dodi. They write a harsha, which means harsha is that you're taking ownership of the person that got the property because he's the Hey Nissen. So you take ownership over his property. In other words, you have rights to represent him as if you're in his place, and therefore you now come to the buyers of Chodesh Ir and you say to them, Miman avshach, you have a property that belongs to me or to him. If I'm from Chav Tes Nissen, so then you have my property. If I'm from the Shchaydish Nissen, so the person of Hey Nissen, you took his property. So because I'm presenting myself and I'm representing also the person of Hey Nissen, so the people from Chaydish Ir definitely come after both of us, and therefore I can collect the property from you. That's the solution.